Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Skull and you're on the lifeboat. And wow, does that sound loud? It really sounded loud. I don't know what happened. Am I all right? I got a 5x5. If you're new on the boat, on a scale of 1 to 5, how does the video and the audio look? Would be the reference to a 5x5. That means I sound good on audio, I look good on video. Or did I have that backwards? You understand where I'm going with this? Right? Okay. Brandon Calloway, good to see you, bud. Anik, thank you. There we go. There's our 5x5s. And now they're coming in strong. Jason, thank you. So we did a show earlier, and it was cool. I was very, very happy. We had a very good turnout. And toward the end of the show, someone began talking about journaling. And there was some talk about, I kind of half-heartedly, jokingly said, look, give me 9 reasons why you think journaling is stupid and you don't want to do it, because it will get you writing. But the truth of the matter is I want you to pay attention, because today I'm actually going to give you some stuff that you can sit down and journal on. And it's going to give you an idea of how to do this on your own. It's going to give you a decent idea of how to journal when you feel like you cannot journal. And the reason people feel like they can't journal is because they feel like the stuff that starts rolling out onto the page should be this huge epiphany, this life-changing thing, right? And that's going to happen, but it's going to happen over a period of time. And in order for that to happen, you're going to have to get comfortable with the idea of that journal being a friend, of that journal literally being like a confidant in a way you've probably never had. So how do you get that rolling if you're massively uncomfortable with the entire concept? Here's a couple of really innocuous things that you can do to get the ball rolling. The next time that you're sitting there and you're going, there's nothing I can write. I got a damn page in front of me. Tommy's an idiot. This is stupid, right? Do me a favor and make a list of the names of every teacher you can remember from kindergarten through high school. You hear me? First grade through 12th. If you went on to further education and you want to knock off a couple of professors that stick out to you in your dome for one reason or another, then write them down. Also, next to them, write down any nicknames that you guys might have had for them, because that's one of those things that that comes up. Obviously, we do that to teachers. It's something that most kids do. It's just an innocuous drill, right? All you're doing is writing down. You will not believe what that will do to start unpeeling onions. And this should give you an idea of the kind of stuff that you can do that seems like mindless busy work that I promise will start getting to the nuts and bolts of why you actually are the way you are. Because if you start with that, it's going to get you to start looking back in your mind to places that you haven't gone in a very long time, because there's really no reason to think about things like that. And as you start to think about, what was the name of that second grade teacher? Other small thoughts might pop in and out of your head, like second grade. That was the year that kid moved in. I think he came from Detroit, and he was always wearing that Detroit Lions jacket, right? All the girls thought he was cool, and it was kind of a bummer. And the next thing you know, you're actually reliving moments from your past that will take you back to what was going on in your life maybe 25 or 35 years ago. And if you let this run, if you do this, if you commit to this, you're going to start finding out things about yourself that you did not know. And this isn't tripe. This isn't filler to do a freaking video. You have to admit there's a very cute picture of my cat, right? That's what she does when I won't let her outside. She just sort of hops up on the door and does that squirrel pose. And I was fortunate enough to get a picture of her staring directly at me while she did it. But a lot of times we feel like we're barely hanging on. And one of the reasons for that is people decide that they're going to quit drinking or drugging, and they put as much thought into it as you would mowing the lawn, right? I need to get a mower. I need to get some gas. All right, I need to put down the bottle. I need to not buy any more. All right, we're good. This guy's going to mow. This guy's going to quit, right? That's about the amount of planning that goes into your sobriety. It's probably not a really good idea, right? You probably need to actually try to figure out a way to live on this planet sober. because just cutting out the booze or the drugs, that's not the game, right? It's a hell of a start. It'll buy you a ticket to the game. But the idea is you would like to live a life that is fulfilling, that has meaning, so that you are happy in the life that you're in and that you feel like you've got some purpose and some meaning. Journaling is absolutely a part of that. Whether or not you've ever picked up a joint, right, or snorted something or slammed something, or you were a drinker for 3 decades, doesn't matter, because anything that we're going to do in this life, if you're not writing things down that have to do with goals, plans, this is just, I can't stress this enough. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, right, this is a very serious question. When's the last time you wrote something down on paper about yourself? Sat down and just said, all right, I'm either going to make a list or I'm going to journal or I'm going to do something. When's the last time you sat down and you put pen to paper and you seriously started writing to have something to do with your sobriety? If the answer to that question is, I don't remember, you're making a mistake. I almost said something terrible. I was really right on the edge of saying something other than screwing up really badly. But you are really messing up. I promise you, it's just not going to work. And you say, oh man, I'm just not the kind of person that, of course you're not. You never have been. Nobody is the kind of person that journals. You know what I mean? It's not like at 4 we go, I'm going to be one of those dudes. I'm going to write in this little book for the rest of my life. Really usually doesn't happen that way. I mean, maybe that's happened. Maybe those people exist. I'm not one of them. I fought it tooth and nail for a very, very, very long time. And as much as any aspect of my sobriety, this is it. This is what changed my life. I would say to people, you know what? My goals don't come true. No matter how much the things that I wanted to do. And Q was like, were you really clear in what your goals were? I'd be like, hell yeah. We're starting a company. I was clear. I knew what I wanted to do. You wrote all that stuff down, right? I didn't write it down, but it was pretty obvious what we were trying to do, If you're not putting pen to paper, right? Or maybe you type out on a computer, whatever. If you're not engaging 3, right, things at the same time, if that mind isn't going, right, and you're not making this stuff happen and all of the senses and, right, cognitive thought, putting stuff down on paper, right, stirring up memories, doing all of these different things, this is what is going to keep you on the path. If you feel like you're barely hanging on, it's probably because you're not doing any of the things that you need to do to feel like you're not hanging on. It is a process, right? And we get better at sobriety. It's like a freaking Rubik's Cube, right? And it's a difficult thing to teach because my Rubik's Cube doesn't look anything like yours. It doesn't. But one of the things that I found is no matter how many different people do this, and I've been doing this for a hot minute, right? I've talked to a lot of people who are trying to get sober. I can say almost across the board, not that the vast majority of people who get sober and stay sober for an extended period of time are journaling. They're journaling and they're doing it twice a day. If you don't understand or you think I'm making this up, our brain is so complex and yet it's so simple. If you go to bed with a bunch of thoughts that just sit here, you think, all right, I'm done. I come home from work. I start hanging out. I'm talking to my significant other, right? I put on Married with Kids. I start watching it, right? Whatever you're doing, because you think that's it. Work's done. You go in, you brush your teeth. I promise you, all of the things that happen to you during the day, small injustices, right? The guy that took your stapler, whatever, the small injustices, the things that bothered you during the day, the things that you didn't have a chance to get out of your system. Those things are going to drag you down. And if you take them to bed, then an unusual thing happens, right? Your subconscious now has to work through those. But your subconscious has got a much bigger project that it ought to be working on at all times, right? And that's keeping the boat like this. So if you start piling tons of crap onto it, when people say, I don't feel like I slept real well, and when I wake up, I don't seem to have any energy, start journaling before you go to bed and start journaling when you get up in the morning. Because you're going to sleep differently when you dump all the crap that you have in your head from the day onto a piece of paper. I don't know what to write. Write what you did during the day. Write anything that pissed you off. Pardon me. Anything that made you angry, right? Anything that might have been fantastic. Anything that brought you on an emotional roller coaster, because more often than not, we're not any good at being happy, right? Of course, we suck at being sad, but very few of us are any good at being happy either until we learn how. It's a skill, and it's also a choice, right? Happy isn't an accident. We say this all the time. Not going to go to the front door. I'm happy. I understand that you've quit drinking. I'm going to move in. See if we can't liven the place up a little bit, maybe make you smile. It's just not how it goes down. Every single day that you wake up, you have to make a decision that today is the day I am going to live happy. I'm not going to let things bother me, right? If something begins to bother me, I'm not going to go, that's not bothering me. I'm going to take it and I'm going to deal with it, right? In the moment, right then. And that may mean that you're going to go up to somebody that you care about and say, hey, that bummed me out. Not trying to sound, soft or anything else, but what you just said bummed me out. It's got me feeling, a peculiar way. Why would you say something like that? It's amazing how often I confront someone on something like that and they go, oh, dude, no, that's not even close to what I meant, right? You're way off. Here's what I was trying to say. And you start feeling like, maybe this communication thing is a little bit more complex than I thought. I apologize with how this is, the chat is going. New Zealand chili head. There we go. Sometimes it's difficult to see anything that's flying up on the screen. We are toying with slowing down the chat. There's a lot of people. You guys have gone both directions on this thing, and there's been a decent amount of really excellent points made by both sides. I don't know if you've ever been in a chat that has the chat slowed down, but what it does is it makes it so that you can only put up a certain number. You put up a comment and it will say to you, you're going to have to wait 10 seconds before you could pop off with another one. It's kind of counterintuitive to what we do in the chat, right? I can't talk to you in the chat in real time, but you can talk to each other in the chat in real time, right? Unless we slow it down. And then what happens is it starts to get a little bit more difficult. I know it's hard for me to pick up stuff at this speed, but if you feel strongly about it, email me, and tell me what your opinion is and why. I don't really do decisions like this. I don't, because if I do, someone's going to be really unhappy with me later. So I usually put it to you guys and I let you figure it out. And then I just do what you guys, what the strong vote is, right? We go with the majority kind of a thing. We're a silly kind of democracy around this camp. But if you feel, one way or the other about it, please reach out to me. It'll make it easier. So we're talking about nuts and bolts stuff here. Nuts and bolts stuff. And very often when people show up in the lifeboat, we get two types. We get people that have been in sobriety for a while and they've never found anything like this. They've never found a group of people where they can come together and talk and they can share things, especially without people looking at you and doing that kind of a weird, that weird moment where you just feel like, I don't want to be here anymore. We've all walked into those meetings, but this is a little different. And for a lot of people, this is their first exposure to things like this. And if that's the case, then maybe how you got sober is literally just quitting. And it's not a bad thing. It really isn't. It's how you got to start. But from that point on, you need to start putting together a toolkit of things that you're going to do when bad things happen. You have to have a game plan of what you're going to do every time you get into an emotional situation. People talk about triggers. You hear this term all the time. And triggers very often mean that there's one thing that happened to you in your past, right? Like every single time you got high for, say, 10 or 15 years, you got up and put on the album Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. And that's what you fix to every single day, every single morning for a decade and a half. Well, if you hear the first track of Appetite for Destruction come on, there's a really good chance that you're going to go and you're going to start, like, it's just your body is literally triggered. Now, that's what people usually mean when they use the term trigger. Something that somebody sees that instantly kind of puts them into an uncomfortable position that forces them to think about something that they'd rather not think about. Does it make sense? Thank you, ZW. And answer your phone, ZW. Sorry. Tried calling ZW today and she didn't answer. But thank you, ZW. Your support is it is appreciated. And you know what? I should mention this because there seems to be some misconceptions about the getting rich here on the lifeboat. The money that comes in from the lifeboat is used to help people get into medical assisted treatment. We would love for the lifeboat to make enough money so that Heather Joy and I could do this full time, right? And maybe even have, one or two other people who are helping us to do it full time, because it is going to get that big. And we would love that to happen. And when it does, I won't apologize in any way, shape, or form. But at this point, there are more people that need help than there is money. And that's just the reality of it. And to the tune of thousands and thousands of dollars that, as of this far, we have gone, into our own coffers to do. And there have been some very generous people that have donated to help make these things happen. But it has not been a for-profit business. We're not a charity by any stretch of the imagination. I very much want this to be a profit business, but we're not anywhere close to that, people. If you guys aren't familiar with an app called Social Blade, you should go over and check it out sometime. You can look up any of your content creators, any of the people that you really dig, and you say, I love that channel. I love what those people are doing. Go over and put them into an app called Social Blade, and they'll tell you what they make. And I think you'll be terrified. Because people get this image of what YouTubers make, and they get this idea in their head that, they get a lot of people, and there's a ton of people that show up at these things, and it's really, really different. I'm telling you that right now. Jim Webster, you are a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Jim. Jim is really one of the good guys, and you know what? There aren't enough of them left. New Zealand Chili Head, welcome to green. You look good in green. You really do. Yankee Kyle, congratulations on how long you've been sober, brother. It's an impressive number. It really is. It's an impressive number. My friend Jim's been sober a very, very long time as well, and it was off of booze. You put together a bag of tricks. If you're here and you just found your way onto the boat because you found us through growing up in Scientology, or you found us through one of the hate channels that makes videos about me, and you're like, who the hell is he talking about? And then you wandered on over to the lifeboat and stuck around, right? If you got here and you're new here and you don't quite understand, if you're just trying to get sober, that's fantastic, right? You got to get the chemical out of your life. If the chemical is booze, you're going to need it gone about 14 days, right? If it's opiates, you only need it gone about 4 before you can really start snapping back. Now, before any of you go nuts, I'm talking about snapping back between the ears. I'm talking about before the brain chemistry starts to mellow out a little bit. Hold on one second. I made $3 this week on YouTube. At this rate, it will, hold on. At this rate, it will what? Lemmy's funny. At this rate, it will take my 3 months for another paycheck from them. And I'll tell you something, Lemmy, you've had some big videos. Lemmy's had some videos with a lot of views. It doesn't, I promise you, people, if like when I say to people, I really think you should start a YouTube channel. People, I get questions all the time. There's a lot of people that have a lot of questions about YouTube. And when we get to the money part, I say the same thing every single time. If you're doing this because you want to make money, I could probably make some suggestions about, 10 or 15 different ways you might want to go that probably are going to see a better return on investment. And I don't mean investment for cash, because it doesn't cost much to get a YouTube channel up and running. I'm talking about ROI on your time. Even if all you do is create content, turn the computer off, talk to nobody, and go about your day. This business model, by the way, that doesn't work here. But if that's all that we did, it still wouldn't be a good return on the investment. This takes up a lot of time, to create content and what we do. It's 2 hours a day, but there's a little show prep. You got to kind of figure out what it is that you're going to say. But more importantly, I try to actually connect with the people on the boat, because We're not a gaming channel. The people that come here looking for something, right? They are very, very much seeking something. And more often than not, that something is there a way to live this life without chemicals? Honestly, is it possible for me to do this? Because I see people in the chat talking about it, but I'm different, right? I see people in the chat, they're saying that, I got here and I've been sober this long. I'm not like those people. I was doing this much. You don't know my story. I'm different. Everybody thinks they're different. I sure as hell thought I was. And you know what? There's a part of me that still thinks I was. I did a lot of dope, and I did it for so long, but I'm no different than anybody else. I'm really not. And the amounts, none of it. None of it. It's all the same. It really is. It is all the same, especially once we get rid of the chemical. Whether you were doing 9 grams a day or whether you were doing 1/4 gram a day, once it's out of your system, those two people, they got the same road in front of them. Doesn't change a lick. It doesn't. I know that's a hard concept for some people to wrap their brain around, but it makes no difference. It just means that this guy's habit's way worse. So if the two of them go off and they stay clean for 4 or 5 years, and then the both of them decide to relapse on the same day, the guy that was doing the 9 G's is in deep trouble, because the whole time they've been stomped, that disease continues to grow. And I know that people struggle with this as a concept, but it is a stone cold fact. If you talk to anybody in recovery that say got sober for 20 years and then had like a 2-month relapse, ask them about it. Because wherever they left off, when they started back in a week, they were that plus a hell of a lot. It's ugly how this disease continues to progress, whether or not you are actually in active addiction, using, or whether or not, you were not. It's still going to be in there, and it's still going to be growing. It's why it's so essential to get this crap out of our lives. It's why it's so essential to not believe any of the people that, that come at you with this garbage of, you absolutely can learn to control your drug of choice. There are a crap load of YouTube channels out there of people who say you absolutely can learn to get your stuff under control. Addiction's not real, right? All of that stuff. And you know what? If you're hearing me and you've been to those channels and you're weighing your options, I would recommend you see how that works out. The good news is we'll be here, right? When that doesn't work out, you can come back. We're not going to laugh. We're not going to judge. Not going to do any of that. We'll be here. But that's a bad system, people. If we were able to control our substance of choice, we wouldn't be here, right? Me here, you here. Reference. Bueller. All right. So back to journaling. You get up in the morning, right? First example I gave you, teachers from first grade all the way through high school, what you can remember, right? And then you start doing the first time you did an entire series on, do you remember the very first time you can remember being in a pool, right? All of us have spent plenty of time swimming in our lives. Do you remember the first memory, like when the computer comes online? Where's the first time you can remember being in a pool? These exercises where you ask yourself questions like this, and then you go back and just try to write them. Not only does it get you into the mindset of exploring your past, right? But it also gets you into the habit of putting words down, right? Not 5 of them. It's a difficult thing to tell that story, right? The first time you remember being in a pool. If you write down my 4th grade party, you're not trying it at all, right? You're obviously not seeing where we're going with this. Describe that. What do you remember of that? Because if that's the first time you remember that something happened that day, for real, to imprint that onto you. If you understand how this works, right? The way that our memories work, try to keep us from stepping into traffic and getting hit by a car, or realizing that if you touch that thing, it will burn you. If you touch that thing, it will shock you. There's science now that says over a long enough period of time, somehow we actually pass that to the next generations. Like, if society were to live, another 100,000 years, kids would probably be born knowing that you couldn't touch an outlet, I mean, from an early age, as they started to come online, it does become, so bred into us. But it's that first memory. It's the time you did put something in an electric socket. There are girls out there going, I don't know. And every guy is listening to me going, yeah, I did that. I did that. Right? Guys did that. I think we all at one time or another stuck something into an electric outlet and got the zorch where it kind of threw you across the room. I probably could tell you at least 4 good Johnny Scoville stories about Johnny shocking himself. The point being, those things imprint on you in a different way, because in a perfect world, that's what that part of our brain was there for. Those really, really specific memories are there so that the next time you hear the horn, right, of a car, or the next time you see that thing, your hand will jerk back before your brain has the thought, right? How's that possible? Well, because that striatum, that part of our brain that does things without being told, right, which is so indelibly hooked up to the memory part of your brain. There's some serious stuff going on, right, between the memory part of your brain and the striatum. So we jump back. You've been going to step off a curb and you hear an engine and there's no thought process. There's not, that noise could be a car. Could be coming from the left. If it's coming from the right, it's really not that big a deal. There's none of that crap. That's right. You jump back. It's the exact same thing. It really is. It is a behavior that it becomes so ingrained into us, right? That part of us starts to perpetually do these things, and we do them without thinking about them. And when you start getting into processes like deep dive journaling, like when you start really going back through your life and you start thinking about things like the first time that you can remember being in a pool, the first time that you can remember riding in a car with either mom or dad or both. Do you see where this is going? If you look back for memories from your past, and you can go pick any time, they don't have to be the first. They can be, the first kiss probably wasn't right, or the first, whatever. Maybe after a prom or whatever. But pick different times during your life, birth of your child, and start journaling about those things. Write about these things from your past as you remember them. It's nice, right? They're kind of a memoir thing. It's nice to write down things like that. It brings them back into your mind. It makes you appreciate things more. No matter how many times I tell the story of either my son or my daughter's birth, I cry every single time I do it. They usually have to hear it only on birthdays, but occasionally I do it on the boats because I'm a dad, but I'm never going to stop telling those stories. I know that my son could probably do my story verbatim. He's been hearing it for 30 birthdays or whatever. I'm sure that he could probably go, oh yeah, I can do it for you. I'll tell you where dad was, what he was doing, what he said. Start writing this stuff down. Start taking these memories that are so burned into your consciousness that they're there, that they're ready to be written about because something happened to make them that indelible. Birth of a kid, obvious as hell, right? We know what happened that day. We know why that day is more vivid. You know what I mean? Like you can remember what the hospital smelled like. You can remember the sound of the people's shoes squeaking around while you were waiting. It's different, right? Car accidents. You ever been in a car wreck? And you can remember that car rolling slow as hell, right? When you remember it afterwards, and then sitting in the car and dust is flying everywhere and you're going, what the hell? If you think back to that crash, you'll be there. Your heart will start racing for real. Because those memories are hardwired into us. They're designed for a purpose. So what happens if we get memories like that are just crappy, but they're not there to protect us? Something bad happened and it was traumatic and it impressed itself on us in a horrific way. And it's being held on to like that memory is life or death. It's going to protect you, right? It has to, because it was that traumatic on you. So that part of your brain thinks, I got to hold on to this for all it's worth. It's got to be as important as stepping off the curb, because he or she was way more freaked out by it. I really got to hold on to this one. And that trauma never leaves, becomes a part of you. And People spend a buttload of money to get on a couch and talk to someone who goes, how did that make you feel, after every 4 or 5 sentences? Or if you pause too long, well, how did that make you feel? You can do that. Right? I think, what are they, about $75 a session, right? Maybe get in a couple a week, $150 a week. Or you buy a journal for about 45 cents. I know someone on the boat today that bought 2 for 35 cents each. Good stuff. Good stuff. Start journaling. Make that book the person on the couch. And if you find yourself writing in that and you've stopped and you're like, write down, how did that make you feel, Tommy? Should take you right to the next sentence. And it will cost you $75. I'm being funny, but I'm not. I mean, that really is what we do. If you go into that kind of treatment, let's find out where the trauma is. Let's talk about the trauma, explore it, give it its day, deal with it like we wish we could have when we were 6. Something happened to you when you were that young. You can't sit down and go, damn, you know what? This isn't my fault. I'm 6 freaking years old, right? These people are adults. They should have their life in order. What they're doing right now is messed up. It's not my fault, right? That's them. Holy mackerel. I'm the only person in the house that's smart. I'm like Stewie. That doesn't happen. We don't have that kind of intellectual makeup. You know what I mean? When we're young, we are just sponges. And things that happen become those memories. I mean, I don't know, for those of you who are of a certain age, right? If you bought the album Slippery When Wet from the Columbia Record and Tape Club, right? If you're of a certain age, you get to a point where you go, I can remember the past like it happened an hour and a half ago and tell you all kinds of details about it. But I can't remember anything that happened in the last 4 weeks, because nothing that happened in the last 4 weeks had any significance in our lives. It's just what we do, right? We go to work, we come home, we hang out, we do what we do. There's nothing dramatic. You didn't go to Disney for the first time, right? You didn't hold a girl's hand for the first time. You didn't go to a dance for the first time. You didn't do anything for the first time. You didn't do anything in the last week that was so scary that it's going to imprint on your mind for eternity. But all of those things that happened when we were kids, they're not going anywhere. They're not. And if you think, yeah, well, I mean, that was when I was 6. That crap doesn't bother me. I wouldn't put any cash on that. I wouldn't, because I was that dude too. Holy mackerel. The number of people who I said, there's nothing in my past, right? My parents stayed married until my father died in his 80s, right? We had a great family. You know, I wasn't beat. I've got no excuses. This is on me. I'm just an idiot. You know what I mean? This was completely on me. And it is. Make no mistake, it is. But there was plenty of crap in my past that I hadn't dealt with. All kinds of it. And the beautiful thing was, I found it without holding on to 2 cans. I found it without paying anybody $75 while laying on a couch. 45-cent notebooks. You'd be shocked what they could do for you. And if you get jammed up, get with someone else who writes in 45-cent notebooks and is going through the same thing, and say to them, hey, I was journaling. I came across this thing from my past. It's a bummer. And I'm trying to work through it. It's not really working. And I kind of feel like maybe I should talk about it with somebody instead of just the journal. Maybe you can give me a little feedback. I've done this. I've been on both sides of this equation a dozen times, maybe more, where somebody calls and says, I'm jammed up. All right, tell me the story. And they start telling you what happened from their youth, and you go, yeah, damn. And this was how long ago? You know, like those kind of things. And then you get to the very end and the person says, oh man, thank you. You know, you really kind of put things into perspective. That's how it works, honestly. They thank you up and down 15 times because you helped them figure this out. It's got to be on the phone listening. I've said it a million times. If you think I don't want to be in someone's 5 because I don't have all the answers, you don't need one answer to help somebody who's in recovery. You just have to be somebody that understands what they're going through and know the right questions. Are you all right? Seriously, you going to be okay? Let's talk. What's going on, right? Every single thing for that entire process. Should you be you firing questions at the person? They don't need to be lectured. They don't need to be talked to. They need you to ask them some questions so that they can get what they're trying to cope with the hell out of their body. Am I making any sense? This thing on? Seriously, you know where I'm going with this? How do we get to unresolved trauma? How do we get to the crap in our lives that's actually making it so that it's almost impossible to hang on? Why is it that we're uncomfortable in our own skin? Well, there's something in there, right? There's something inside that skin that is rubbing around and making you uncomfortable. The idea is to surgically remove it. 45-cent notebooks. Apparently right now at Walmart, they're 35 cents. So you might want to get on that. That's a pretty good deal. I mean it. That's a pretty good deal. And if you are having a hard time coming up with something to write in your notebook, come back and watch this video. You can randomly pick any time from your life and say, all right, I'm going to pick something. How about we do birthdays? What's the first birthday you remember? What's the worst birthday you remember? What's the best birthday you remember? I would have every freaking holiday out there, couldn't you? I mean, this is what journaling is, people. It's trying to get creative with yourself so that you can slowly and methodically peel back the onions of your past to get to the trauma that might be lying below. At the same time, not letting any new drama pop up. Well, how do I do that, Tommy? Well, you don't go to bed with crap on your mind that you don't deal with. Make sense? Don't go to bed with crap on your mind that you didn't deal with. That stuff has a sneaky way of becoming unresolved trauma. Are you with me? That's the reason that the notebook before bed is a really good idea. See, that's preventing new crap from becoming trauma. And when you get up in the morning, that's preventing you from being a jackass when you go out into the day and go to work. Because you have stuff from the night before that just didn't get resolved. And you feel like you're all right. You brush your teeth, you shave, you do your thing. But you just ever have those days? Just get up in the morning and nothing feels right. You feel like that stupid V8 commercial from the 80s. You know what I mean? You sort of walking at an angle and nothing feels like it's firing the way it's supposed to. I don't know. Don't go out with a head full of crap. Right? It's probably a pretty good mantra right there, right? Do not go out with a head full of crap. Get it out of there. Put it down in a journal. And then when you're dedicating journal time before you go to bed and you just want to fall asleep and you've written down 8 to 10 sentences about what happened in your day and you feel pretty good about it. It encapsulated your day. There's nothing that made you angry that you didn't write about. There's nothing that made you particularly happy that you didn't write about. Kind of an insignificant day, but you jotted that down. Now, tell me about the first time you can remember crashing a bicycle. Can you remember who taught you to ride it? Right? We could go that whole route, can't you? Who taught you to ride a bike? Who taught you to drive a car? Who taught you to drive a car with a stick shift? My guess is maybe a boyfriend and not a family member. Because if you were a guy that could drive a stick shift and you had a halfway decent car, that was always one of the greatest ways to meet girls. I used to say, I could teach you to drive a standard. I got a stick shift. Come over here. No problem. Yeah, that worked. In fact, there would be no Spanx Calhoun without that method. Or his sister for that matter. This is really the kind of stuff that all of you have the potential to build for yourself. Do you understand? When I say your Rubik's Cube and my Rubik's Cube aren't the same, they're not. They're not. But I promise you, they're red, they're green, right? They're blue. The nuts and bolts of this is the same for everybody. No matter what the trauma is, no matter what the drug is, the nuts and bolts of it, the color of it, it's all the same. It really is. It could be way worse. The blue for you could be a hell of a lot bluer than it is for me, but it's blue. Right? Not confusing anybody, am I? All of the things that we're going through are not unique to us. Everybody, right? Every addict goes through the exact same things, but it's so unique to you. It's like a thumbprint. right? It's a Rubik's Cube. Everybody's cube's different, but the colors are the exact same. We're all going through the same thing, in spite of all of the exterior stuff that you've got going on, which makes your road to sobriety and your walk in sobriety so much different than mine. We all need a toolkit. We all had a point when we were using, and then we all had a point where we weren't, right? We've all stumbled and fallen, the vast majority of us anyway. Some of us a lot, and we know what it feels like. It's one of the reasons that we treat people here differently when they slip and fall. You understand? One of the reasons that we never, ever crap on somebody who stumbles in any way on this boat is because there is absolutely nothing. Let me 5 months. Sorry, people. You know, I don't really read the comments the way that I used to. And it is not personal in any way. It's not that I'm not trying to link up. I love interaction. I really do. I find that the older I get, the harder that I have holding on to a thread. You know what I mean? When I was a speaker and I was young, I'm not kidding. I could be on stage doing a speech, right? And in my head, I would be thinking what my wife asked me earlier on the phone, right? There was something she wanted me to do when I was leaving the airport. I'm not kidding. And I'm literally like having this thought while I'm doing something. Those days are over, man. Those days are over. I don't think the mind does that late in life. I watched my brother Johnny. People don't believe this. I swear to you, this is the truth. I walked into his office once and he was on a cordless headset and he was pitching somebody. We were doing BizOp opportunity calls for business opportunity stuff. How to make money in real estate, how to make money in this. I made this much money in this period of time, you know, like those things, infomercials. So we're doing back end sales for that kind of stuff. And it's a bit of a hustle. I would not say it is the shining spot of our careers, right? It was legal, but I don't know how ethical it was. But I walk in and Johnny's got the headset on and he's talking to the person. And I've heard the pitch, you know, about 1,000 times. I mean, the two of us wrote it together. And I'm listening to the pitch and I sort of walk in and he's got a book in his hand. And I just looked at him like, the hell are you doing? And I looked up at him and he looked back at me and then he went back and I went over because the systems that we had like went to little boxes and I hit mute. And I'm like, are you reading? And he's like, oh, I'm just looking for one thing in the book. I'm like, it wasn't like the person was talking and he's looking at it. His mouth was running at the same time. I was absolutely blown away by that. However, those days are over for both of us. I mean, Lord for Johnny, long time ago. I mean, those waved bye-bye. John, you know, I mean, watch the man eat peppers. You think he's all there? Yee. Joe, that you know. Joe, good to see you, man. Joe's such a positive cat. He really is. I'm really glad that you're here. He says, I can't stay. That's all right, man. I really appreciate you coming in. Much love. Good to see you, Joe. That's awesome. It really is. Awesome. Take care of yourself. Listen, everybody. I know that we all have probably heard this and the announcements have already been made and everything else, but I really wanted to make a point of this. For all of the people here that have sent positive messages and you know, kind words and prayers and you know, for Charlie Mullins, aka Charlie Murphy, and his entire family. I mean, this has been a really rough time, and you know, the news was good today for his mom, and that is a really beautiful thing. And you know what? We ask all the time for, you know, for prayers for people. We don't want to offend anybody. If it's not your get down, that's completely all right. But for people that do, we always want to give people the opportunity if somebody on the boat is needing that kind of support or that kind of assistance. And Charlie Murphy he is the lifeboat. I love it. Joe says, I watch you when I get home. I see your comments, Joe. I love you, man. I really do. Joe's just got such a fantastic attitude. And really always has. So very, very cool. Hello, Kay. So please tell me I made sense today, people. Please tell me you're getting a handle on just how important this journaling is. It's a huge deal to get the stuff that's in your head out of your head before you go to bed. Prevents future trauma. If you're messed up about something, it might take 5 days. Something happens at work that makes you so angry that you're writing about it for 5 days. Well, you're not going to bed with it unresolved. You're not burying it deep inside a part of you where I'm just not going to deal with that. If you think that works, man, when you tuck something away and you say, I'm not going to deal with it, it turns into a festering. I mean, it just destroys you, and it destroys everything it touches. It gets worse. It gets worse. It gets worse. You cannot cope by not coping, right? If you choose that you're just not going to get involved, that's a choice that's going to kill you. You have to deal with these issues. And the way we're talking about right now, just really, really kind of innocuous stuff. Going back and looking at your childhood and writing about it is a great way to get started. My sea legs are no more. How good is that? Huh? Seagull. Well played. It'd be good for one of these, huh? Well done, Seagull. The sea legs are no more. Well played. I like to hear that. Sorry. Is that why I'm sobbing uncontrollably watching Top Level Chef? Yeah. And it's really funny that you say that, because when I started to work with Q in prison, one of my friends that I did a bunch of dope with came up to me about the fourth or fifth day that I disappeared at night. Like I wasn't hanging out in the unit, right, and doing dope and running around and causing problems or anything else. Every night I'm disappearing, and I'm going down to the library. I'm spending 3 or 4 hours down there talking to Q and getting assignments, doing all kinds of stuff. And I came back and I told the friend from my unit what I was doing, and he's like, "Hey man, I want in on that." He's like, "Seriously, man, I don't want to do this crap anymore. I want in on that." And so I went over and I talked to Q. I was like, dude, he'd like to kind of do the same thing. And, I don't see any harm or foul, right? If two of us come along, he goes, he won't make it a week. And I'm like, you haven't talked to the dude. He's like, no, I know who he hangs out with. I know where he's like, he's been on this yard a lot longer than you have. He's like, he isn't going to make it a week. He goes, I'll do this for you. As hard as I can. He goes, he isn't going to make it a week. The guy's not ready. And I remember being like, I don't know. I was angry. I really was. I was kind of angry about the whole thing. Of course he was right. I mean, he was. You literally can't force somebody into something that they don't want to do. You can force them into treatment, right? I mean, you can put them in a room and lock them up and not have anything there. But if you don't deal with the underlying issues, let me explain something that we have people that have been to prison on the lifeboat. There's actually a decent number of them. And I don't expect you, if you don't want to admit that you've been to prison, don't. But some of the people that have been to prison will tell you this story over and over and over again. You watch people leave. Now, if you're in a harder institution, like if you're going where Danny Masterson's going, right? People ain't leaving every day. The unit he's in, you get there. It's like, you check in, but you don't leave. It's like the Roach Motel. Those people get there and they're there a long, long time. If they leave, it's not because they're going home. They're getting shipped to a new yard. But you will be sometimes, if you have a sentence of under 10 years, you're at a go-home yard. These guys are doing short sentences, and just about every day, somebody on that yard is leaving. And then every couple of weeks, a busload of new guys get in. But you see people leave every day, and it's exciting. If you've had a longer sentence, when you get down to that level and you're seeing people leave, you get all fired up, right? Because it starts feeling like with every dude that walks out that fence, I'm one guy closer, to when I walk out that fence. But it is an odd phenomenon. When people get into that last week, you will find out what that person did during their entire sentence in the last 5 days they're there. And you will not, doesn't matter if you did time with them, if you have anything on the ball, you sit down and have one conversation with them. If you say, what are you going to do when you get out? It's astounding the number of people who say, I'm going to get high. First thing I do, right? I'm going out right now. The joke used to be, in the spoon by noon, right? They were at the gate at 8 and in the spoon by noon. And guys used to say this crap all the time on the way out the door. I'll be at the gate at 8. I'll be in the spoon by noon. Like, I'm just going to go. I'm going back. I'm shooting some dope. That's what I'm doing. And you just think to yourself, you had 10 years, right? You had 10 years to try to get your stuff together. And apparently you didn't use that time very well, right? Because your plan is to go out and do exactly what got you here in the first place. And then they'll look at you with the stupid bewildered look on their face and go, I'm not in here for shooting dope. That's not what I'm in here for. Oh, what are you in here for? Identity theft. You know, I got caught with like 400 credit cards in one of those little machines and, all that stuff. What were you doing that for? To buy dope. Right? There are people that don't see the whole cause and effect thing. Literally, just don't see it. But then you will see people and you'll say, what are you doing when you get out? And the guy will say, you know what? I got a guy meeting me at the gate. Really? Who? Well, I used to go to this drug program in here, and it was a volunteer one. It wasn't one that was ordered, and they would bring people in from the street. And they would come into meetings and they'd say, if there's somebody in this group and you're getting ready to leave and you're scared, if you think you're going to leave and you're going to screw up and you're going to do dope, call me and I will meet you at the gate. I will not let that happen. I will get you to that halfway house clean, and I will do anything within my power to keep you on that path. And I remember watching people like that in the front of the room and thinking, what a moron, right? This guy can do anything he wants. He's free, right? He can do anything he wants. And he wants to come here and pick up guys leaving prison. This guy's an idiot. Didn't make a lot of sense to me at the time. Now I think to myself, boy, that's got to be a great gig. It really does. That's got to be so much fun. Seriously, picking up a guy at his first taste of freedom, and he's looking you in the face and going, I don't want to get high anymore, man. Like, that's a dude that used his time wisely. That guy was in there trying to figure out a way to make sure that this wasn't going to happen again. Right. And if you catch somebody at that time, when he's getting in that van, that man's got a shot. He has a shot at spending the rest of his life out, getting a call from a probation officer that says, come in here and sign some papers. You're done. Right. 20%, something like that. The rate of people that get out and stay out is really, really low. And it's really, really low because there's nobody helping. There's nobody doing the kind of things that guy does, to meet somebody at the gate, to be there to help. Whether you realize it or not, when you guys come here and you come here 6 days a week, a lot of you come 7 days a week. You know what you are very often? You're the guy at the gate, or you're the gal at the gate, because there are people that wander onto this boat, and that's the look, right? If you could see them, it's the same look. They got the deer in the headlights. They're scared. They know they can't do this crap anymore. And somebody said, there's a dude online that's helping people get sober. And he thought, I am at the end of my rope. Or she thought, I'm willing to listen to a bank robber on a YouTube channel. Like, that's how bad I want to get clean. And when they show up here, the crew just, I used to say they descend on people. I think the new vision, when they envelop people, right? People come on the lifeboat and the crew just kind of comes up around them and just sort of envelops people. We're really glad you're on the boat. Welcome. Is there anything I can do to make you feel more welcome? You let me know. We're really glad you're here. Damn, it's cool that you found the boat. Woo-hoo-hoo! Right? I mean, everybody's just stoked when someone gets here, and that's bizarre. Nobody cares if you show up on someone else's live feed. Hey, what's up? Good to see you. Here you didn't come here to be entertained, right? You came here because you're ready to change your life. How cool is that? Already puts you in a really small group, whether you realize it or not. People talk about how the self-help community is a, $75 godzillion dollar industry, and every year it grows and the numbers just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's the crazy thing is the percentage of people that are buying that, it's the same people. Like if you come across a person that bought Tony Robbins' program, there's a damn good chance he bought 4 other people's programs too. By the way, I'm not crapping on that in any way. I'm not. But what I am saying is the people on this planet who get up and say, I want to make my life better, it is a small percent of the population. This may not make sense to everybody here because everybody here is a different kind of human being, especially currently. But there are people on this planet that are perfectly content to just keep doing what they're doing. They're gonna drink 9 beers a day, every day until the day they die. And as far as they're concerned, it's okay. It's the status quo. I go to work, I come home, I drink, 9 beers, I fall asleep, I go to work, I get the weekends off. You can absolutely live your entire life that way. Seriously. If you showed up here and you're just thinking about the stuff we talk about, and you drink 9 beers, 6 beers, whatever, but you drink every day, you can live your life like that. It's not gonna kill you. It's not. Is it gonna take a few years off your life? Probably. Might take 5 years off your life. It ain't gonna take 16 to 21, right? It's gonna take the end years, right? Not that big a deal, is it? Yeah. What it's gonna do is it's gonna steal a crap load of the time you are here. You understand? It's going to steal from you what you could have been. It's going to steal from you what your kids could have been. It's going to steal from you what their kids could have been. Because if you're in the life, and if your kid comes home every day from school and watches either mom or dad put away 9 beers every single day before he goes to bed or she goes to bed, you know what they think? They think that's normal. They think that every person in the world has got a mom or a dad that comes home and drinks those brown bottles until they're unconscious on the couch, right? That's what kids think. They don't realize that what you're going through is abnormal, right? Or in need of help. And the first time that kids go somewhere else and realize that, Kenny's parents don't drink 9 of those brown bottles and fall asleep on the couch every night, and he doesn't have to go up to bed and put himself in bed alone, by himself because dad's unconscious. Like that doesn't happen over at my friend's house. That's when they realize that there's something wrong. How about if we spare somebody that today, huh? How about if we spare some kid who right now isn't online yet? You understand what I'm saying? When you're a kid, you're 2 years old, you're running around, you're having a ball. Chances are you're not going to remember what's going on around you. Doesn't mean it's not going to affect you, but you're not going to remember it. You haven't come online yet. Like from when you come online, where all of a sudden this is now in your recorded record. This is now part of who you are, right? If from that point on, from the time that you came online, that's the best time in the world. If your kid is below that, quit drinking now. Quit drinking now. And if your kid's been watching that for 5 years, guess what? I'm not trying to be a dick, but listen carefully. You owe them better than that. You do. For real. And if that's what they've been watching or any other drug use, you owe it to not only get clean, but to have the most uncomfortable conversation you've ever had in your life with your kids. I did it. And I had those conversations with everybody I knew, right? There's no one that I haven't had that conversation with, but never was it harder than when I had it with Spanx, where I had to say to him, I'm really, really sorry. And the first time I told him, I swear to you, the first time I told him I was a drug addict, he said to me, no, you're not. I couldn't believe it. I thought, he's got to know, right? He's got to know. We're doing way too much, that doesn't make sense. Like other parents aren't doing this kind of behavior. But he didn't believe it. But I had to continue to do it. And then now that he's a grown man, he looks back and things, oh, I remember that. Obviously, right? That had to be a heroin weekend, or the time you did this, the time you destroyed the concrete steps that led into the back of the house with a sledgehammer. Right? He knew something wasn't right that day. I remember looking up in the window and I'm just absolutely demolishing an entire set of stairs made out of concrete because the one bag of heroin I had dropped through a hole in it. And I started out with a stick and a piece of gum, and tried to do that number, and it would just come up with dust on it. And I was going to break the hole just big enough I could shine a light down and try to see it, and that didn't work. So I broke the hole a little bit bigger, and then I just absolutely came unglued like something from a movie and just destroyed this this concrete set of steps in the back of my house. The amount of damage that I did, to get a bag of smack that I probably could have bought for $40 is just astounding. But he knew something was wrong with Dad that day. And as he looks back on it, but we owe him a better shake than that. So if that's what your kid's watching every night as they go to bed, I'm not mad at you. I'm not. And I'm not trying to sit here and be a jerk, but you do owe the kid a better shake, right? There's no getting away from that. There's no getting around it. You can't sugarcoat it. We owe our kids more than that. And the good news is that get a piece of chalk, right? Draw a line on the ground. And when you're on one side of that piece of chalk, talk to whatever higher power you believe in. If you don't believe in a higher power, then just say to yourself, I'm crossing that line. And when I cross that line, I'm no longer going to be doing this, and this. That's it. I literally did it in a cell, right? And when I first got the advice, the guy said to me, go outside, get a stick, draw a line in the dirt. Yeah, well, going outside was not always the easiest thing to do. And I thought the guy was full of crap anyway. And it was actually days had gone by before I decided to actually do this little ceremony on my own. And I did it in a cell. But it's, I'm into symbolism. I'm into anything like that you can tie something to, and you can remember that day when you did this thing, and that becomes a part of the tapestry of your sobriety. It really does. It becomes a thing. This is the most important thing you're ever going to do in your life. And there's no way to make that any bigger or allow it to be any smaller than exactly that. This is the most important thing you're ever going to do in your life, because every other freaking thing you do is hinging on this. It's not as important as being a dad. Yeah, well, you're going to be a crappy dad. Right? That's what drug addicts are. Even if we want to be great, we can't be. It's not possible, right? So if being a parent, motherhood or fatherhood is more important than anything, I assure you, the dope's going to ruin that, right? My significant other is more important. No, she's not. He's not. Put that person in front of your sobriety, and you'll lose them in a really quick fashion. Anything that you want to hold on to, put sobriety right above it. For real. Anything in your life that you really want to hold on to, just tuck sobriety right above it. That's your best bet of holding on to that thing that means the world to you. All right. I ran a little long today, people. We're getting this basket thing squared away. So be patient with me. It's the heat issue. So I'm getting the basket relined with something that is cool to the touch. It's like a slate, so that I will have back the cat in the basket. I realize, that I have a mutiny on my hands. I've had threats. The calls have come in. I know you're pretty salty about the cat not being here at the end. And look, you know what? The buck stops here. I gotta do better. I promise I'll have the cat here. Just bear with me. All right. By the way, I sent out the picture of a squirrel hanging on the door to one of my friends, and they blew up that photo, right? So that it's just her face. And it is one of the funniest things ever, because she's just sitting there with her look like, oh, I'm busted, right? And she just got caught hanging on the door. Look at this. On cue. On cue. You are a star, squirrel. I swear to you, you're a star. How funny is that? Squirrel, we were about to have a mutiny. You showed up just in time. What a good girl. Huh? And you're in the basket even. You gonna lay down? Sorry, people. I'm stalling while she's kicking the hell out of her head. They do that kind of itch thing. Good girl. Yep, she's going for it. She's going for it. She's turning. And, oh, look at this. This is even better. We're gonna get a good tail cleaning. Come on. Are you biting me? All right, peeps. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. And that's Squirrel, the cat in the basket. And we will see you all on the lifeboat bright and early tomorrow morning. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody. If that somebody's you, get on it. You're running out of time.